Yo, what's good, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Across the Pond, a podcast where I get to speak to people from all around the world. Today, I get to speak with Natali. There is a section of this podcast, or this episode, that I had to cut out because Natali didn't want it somehow to be traced back to her. There are some personal details that were in it, and she kindly asked me to take it out. I said, yeah, of course. I will say this, though. It was a really cool section that I had to cut out, so I do feel kind of bad that you don't get to hear it. But it was still a great conversation with Natali. This one was really fun. I did have an amazing time. I'm going to start just introducing the person and not saying really what they do. So if you don't like that, let me know. Consistently trying to change the intro and the outro. So please, if you like an episode's intro or outro, let me know. Send me an email, crossthepondpod01@gmail.com. But like I said, today's Natali, and I won't tell you anything about it, except there is a bit that is taken out. Anyway, enjoy. This one was fun. You're gonna get to learn a lot of really cool things. I will leak a little thing, though. We talk about the Capitol riots that happened, and not in the negative way that might be portrayed. This was really cool. Hello, Natali?
Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Hold on. Can you say something real quick?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm just making sure that our audio levels are somewhat synced, so one's not blowing the other out.
Sure.
And that should be good. Awesome, sweet. How was your weekend? I guess it's Monday, so.
Yeah, it was okay. It's full with snow. There's snow here.
Oh shoot. I'm not a big fan of the snow. I lived in Montana for a while, and so I understand what cold and snow is, and yeah. I can't stand it anymore. So I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm a West Coast girl at heart. I went to school in Hawaii, and so for me, snow, it's pretty to look at, but I don't want to do anything in it.
Yeah, it's pretty when it falls, and sometimes depending on where you live, people might freak out, so then you get a free day to do whatever you want. But after that, when it melts and then it gets cold overnight and then the roads freeze and then people start getting, no, I hate that. It a lot of bad memories.
And it's DC, so anytime there's even like a smidge of snow, the whole town shuts down. Like they'll use any excuse. They're like, oh, it's snowing, shut it down. And so everyone gets like a day to just do whatever because everything closes because it's the government and they don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, true. So over in DC, do you guys get decent amounts of snowfall, or is it kind of one of those areas to where it's pretty barren?
No, we usually get snow, I'd say every winter, at least once or twice. Like it dusted the day before Christmas, and that was cool. I think a lot of people thought we weren't going to get it because it's starting to be February, but we've had what everyone dubs here Snowmageddon a few like in 2013 or something. And that was crazy. I couldn't even leave my house during it. Like I was in a basement apartment at the time and I couldn't open my door because the snow was like up to my waist at the door. And so the person who lived above me was like, I got to dig you out, but before I can dig you out, someone's got to dig me out. And it was amazing. Like people were sledding where the Capitol was. Like it was awesome. We were skiing in the street. But that was like a once in a lifetime kind of thing, but we're used to snow. I think we're used to it.
Wow, that's nuts.
Not Montana snow, but yeah.
Well, the thing about Montana snow is that there have been some nights to where the sun goes down and it starts snowing, right? And then you turn on the back porch light or whatever, and you can see, the inches are starting to pile up on like the porch rails and the chairs and stuff. And I can remember times to where, like the sun would set at say 4 or 5, because the sun sets early in the winter, and then before I went to bed I would look out and there's at least a foot overnight. But
oh my god,
I know, like thing is like it's cool to see that because you're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of snow, that's really neat. But it sucks because you know that it's a lot of snow. But for the most part in Montana, whenever it snows, it doesn't just dump like that. It'll snow maybe a couple inches and then it'll be done. And then the next day it'll snow a few inches. But the thing is that it doesn't get warm enough to melt anything. So it's always stacking on top of each other. Yeah. So then you get the bad snowbanks. And then, like, for example, when you said you had to have someone dig you out. I've never had that problem, just because we don't get enough snow to have to be dug out. It's just
Oh, okay.
it snows a few inches, you go out and shovel it, and then you're good. And then it snows a little bit, and then you go out and shovel it. So it's not like it just dumps on us. No, that's not how it works. But it just stays really cold.
Okay.
It's really, really cold.
Okay.
And so the snow usually like
Yeah.
encrusts itself, or like ices up, or whatever that term is. It does that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it gets gross, because then the roads get tons of divots, and then people are sliding around because they don't know how to drive in snow. And it's like, dude, what the heck? Like, come on, you live in Montana.
Yeah, I went to I think it's called like Missoula in Montana,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I was like, this is cool. Like, I like it, but there was snow there, and I was like, okay, I don't know how people do this every single day. I commend you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a chore. I can remember that there was this one. So I used to work at Target, right? And
mhm.
I had this super early morning shift when they still did that, to where I'd have to wake up and be there at like 3. And so
Oh my God.
there was one morning where I got up, and because it's so cold in the wintertime, you have to start your car and let it warm up,
Mm,
because you can,
mhm.
literally kill your car. And so I go
Of course.
outside, and as soon as I open up the door, I had to shut it because it was so cold. I checked the thermometer. It was -20 Fahrenheit. And the worst part about it is that it did not get higher than -20 the rest of the week. During the day, during the or during the night, it would get colder. It didn't break -20 for a week straight. It was the worst
Oh
thing I
my
think I've ever experienced.
God. Yeah, no, like no, that's not for me.
Because you say you live in DC, are you close enough to the capital to where you were affected by that a couple weeks ago?
I mean, to an extent, like I live in a neighborhood that's not too far from it, and so I'd already known things were going to happen. They had put up signs. There was protesting in a
Whoa.
hotel that I'm beside, and I I was just driving to the DMV like maybe 2 days before that happened, and all these people were holding signs that said no fascists, no rooms for fascists. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on?
Oh, shoot.
And I drove by them again and I stopped and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, you need to go to this website and blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I looked it up and I saw, oh, I didn't realize they were planning to come. I didn't realize this was a thing because normally the count is not a big deal. No one cares. It takes 20 minutes and it's done. And so I was like, this might get kind of interesting. So I watched it on television live and I literally thought that it was recording. I was like, oh, are we on a delay? Because there's no way that there are people like just less than a mile from here doing this. That doesn't make any sense. I was like,
Wow.
oh, this feed must be like an hour behind. And so I went to go out and they'd already started closing off the streets to certain things. And we're like, nope, you cannot go.
Oh,
And I was like,
my.
what's happening at the Capitol? Like, we have a situation. And so like it kind of just escalated really quickly. And I went into the city the day before the inauguration just to take some pictures. And I was like, I want to go by the Capitol. I want to go, you know, by the monuments and take some pictures. And there were still people out protesting and things like that. There were signs.
Wow.
I should show you the sign. There was a sign that said, like, be careful. There's fascists in the street and they're going to, or like in the town, and they're going to be here between this day and this day. I'll show you this picture because this was one of those things where it kind of like, it it kind of freaked me out. I was like, "Whoa, I guess they're preparing for people to be here and to be causing trouble. So maybe I should be more careful now that I am out because you literally never know what you're gonna see in DC. That's kind of the scary and beautiful thing about living here is you just don't know."
That's nuts, because I can remember the morning of that day. I work for a company that is contracted by Amazon. And so I get up pretty early in the morning to go get my truck and grab my stuff so then I can go to work, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm loading up my truck, and the way that they have us do it is really stupid. Long story short, I'm sitting in my truck waiting to leave the warehouse, and I look at my phone, and it said, people are storming the Capitol, or something like that. Maybe it was
Mhm.
later. Maybe I'm getting my day confused because I don't remember exactly when it happened. I just remember I was on the clock, and I looked at my phone, and it said, people are storming the Capitol. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, that's a lie. Like, that must just be a joke. And then I got home, and
Yeah.
my wife was like, have you seen what's on TV? And I looked at it, and I was like, wait, are you serious? Like, people are
Mhm.
doing this? So, and you're telling me that this was something that was
Mhm.
premeditated days before?
Yes.
What the
And that's
heck?
kind of my thing is I'm like, I people who walk, ride bikes, do all kinds of things in the city, when you get too close to things, you get moved. It's aggressive. They will come up and be like, no, you cannot be within a certain amount of feet here. So to even see that happening, I was like, this can't be real. That's why I didn't think it was real, because I was like, I know what it's like when you're around there. You can't get that close. You can't just bust through like that. But now there's tons and tons of walls up everywhere because of the inauguration, everything that happened. And so I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they're going to keep walls up now to prevent this from ever happening again, which kind of sucks because now you can't get
Yeah.
as good pictures anymore on certain things.
Yeah, that's so strange for me because and here's the thing, like I of course didn't really look into it, so I'm
Mhm.
kind of it was something that happened and I've been so fed up with politics recently that I just try and
Oh
stay
God.
away from all of it because it's not that, and this is just my opinion on the matter and we don't have to get into it. I'll just say it for the sake of explaining myself. There's too many people who are on one side that fight the other side, and it's not necessarily a political thing. It's more so of hate, like a hate thing,
Yes.
and it just gets
Hmm.
old. And so whenever I see something, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that's going on, and then I walk away because I don't want to. It
Yeah,
really
engage with
bothers
it.
me. Yeah. And so when I saw this, I didn't look into it, like I said. And so when you're
Hmm.
telling me all these things, I'm like, why didn't the news say something like that? Like, why in the world didn't they tell us that this was something that's been in the works for days and days and days?
I think honestly, like, I mean, I used to work in media, so I might have a biased view, but it doesn't sell until it's a crisis. And so I feel like part of it was, let's not say anything, let's see what happens. Because if we say something too soon and nothing happens, then we look silly. But if we wait and something pops off and we know about it, then we can get a good story. And that's kind of what it felt like to me, was that there, like I said, people were just holding handmade signs about fascists coming 2 days, 3 days before this happened. So other people knew that this was planned. And so if these people knew, obviously the media knew.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, we're in a time right now that I don't like how divided everyone's, like, everything seems to just be, let's divide every person here. How do we just draw a line in the sand, and either you're with us or you're against us, and that's that. And I think you're right. For a lot of people, this isn't political. It's just a dislike. It's just a hatred of something that's not doesn't agree with what they agree with. And that's what I think is the saddest thing, is I don't like how it's going.
Yeah, and like the thing is if you don't agree with that, you should definitely look into at least Twitter posts. Like of course social
Hmm.
media isn't the answer, but you see, for example, I think this is probably one of the more popular, I shouldn't say popular, but most recognizable like Twitter feuds. AOC and Ted Cruz. They
Oh
literally do
yeah,
nothing but cut each other in the throat, and
yeah.
it's like, here's the thing, and hear me out. What if they could get along at least on social media so then other people can
I
learn from
know.
it?
I
Like,
know.
dude.
It sounds so simple. Like it literally is like being like watching over kids,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's like, okay, guys, you both want to play with this toy, but like you got to find a way. And so when people see that, and they see it on Twitter and they see it on Instagram and on the news, and unfortunately from our president, then it kind of sends the message like, nah, you don't have to be nice. You don't have to play nice. And if someone's different, then attack them instead of trying to like hear them out. Even if you don't agree, it's okay agree to disagree. But like, nah, just go at them. Just have a go at them, because that's what they see.
Yeah. All right. I want to kind of turn it just because politics, and I can tell that
Sure.
you and I both
Yeah.
hate it. So,
Yeah.
so I'm
No, absolutely.
So you said that you worked in the media a little bit. Does that so kind of explain to me your whole, because like I said, you filled out a form, or I shouldn't say like I said because I haven't said it, but you filled out the form. Yeah, that's how I got in
Mhm.
contact with you. And you say that you have formal education. You have a master's in communication.
I do.
So
I do.
what? And then you worked in media. How does that kind of coincide? Like, what was your goal with going to school for that?
Well, I really wanted to be a lawyer, and so I was going to school for law. And then
Mm.
I was like, "This is boring. I'm going to drop out. I'm going to go to art school. I'm going to do photography." And my parents were like, "Have fun with that. We're not going to pay for that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, okay." So I went for communications, and I love writing. I love creative writing. I love books, and to a certain extent, I used to really like journalism. And so after I graduated, I started working with a company that was a lifestyle and culture magazine in New York. And I
Hmm.
was an editor there for a while, for about 6 or 7 years. I did editing with them. I did photography with them. We got to do, this was the thing, when I first got there, I was like, oh, right, this is great. We're telling people about New York and about America, and we're letting people see different sides of things. But then it just turned into like going to red carpet events, trying out new restaurants
Mm.
and after parties and things like that, which was fine, but it wasn't the same. I wasn't getting the same joy out of it that I really had found to begin with. And so
Mm.
um I don't work in the media anymore because I did that for 7 years, and now I do life coaching, and I do freelance editing and things for books and things like that.
Mm. So, because I'm not very knowledgeable about media. Like, of
Mhm.
course, media is a very broad
Broad.
term to
Mhm.
encompass anything from, something that you read or listen to or watch. So when it comes to, I'm whatever, like, just give it to me and I'll take it. I'm one of those people where it's kind of like, if you told me to go here, I do it, like, that's just me.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like reporting and stuff for the media, how do you figure out what you want to report on? And then how do you figure out if that's something that's worth reporting?
So usually when you're reporting something, whatever publication you're working for has, they have a niche, they have a narrative that they're known for. And so as the editor, there was usually me and editors of different departments who would go, okay, like this week or today or whatever, because we didn't publish every single day or anything like that. So we had a little bit more wiggle room. But you come together and you go, okay, here's what's happening right now. Here's what's hot right now. Like, what do you think is going to be a story that you can tell completely? What do you think is going to have something that either you're going to stick with this story all the way through, or it's a complete story and you can share it because you think that it needs to be heard? And so you'll come up with a bunch of ideas about what's going on, what's happening at the moment, crisis communication, focus group planning, all of that stuff. And then you start getting into the nitty gritty of that story. You start figuring out who's involved, who are the key players,
Mm.
where did it take place, doing some research. Fact checking I spent a lot of time fact checking and going over people's stories again and again and making sure that what they were being told could be verified in some forms. Even if we never say that in the article, it's important for the integrity of the publication that where you're getting your information from is viable. And so once you have that, then you get some people to write about it, and then you figure out whose version of it you like the best and go from it. And sometimes we got to put things, like, hey, this is interesting to me, this is a cause I care about, or something that's going on. Can I write a piece on this?
Mm. That's interesting. So then you have multiple people sometimes reporting on, let's just say, I'll use the Capitol thing again. So you'll have multiple people reporting on what happened at the Capitol, and then whoever you feel like as the editor wrote the best article is the one that you would pick?
Yeah. Yeah. So like
Wow.
sometimes like and that's part of journalism. It is a competitive field. So, sometimes you'll be like, okay, I want you two on this story. You can work together on it, or you both can write a piece. And usually people just want the credit themselves. So they'll be like, all right, I'm gonna try and do it from my angle, you do it from your angle, and we'll see what we get. And sometimes if you're lucky, like using the Capitol as an example, you will be able to tell more than one side of the story. You'll have someone who came to storm the Capitol. You'll have someone who worked protecting the Capitol. You'll have someone who, had heard about it but didn't do anything about it. And so you kind of have some room to play with when you are coming from different angles. And you can sometimes piece those two stories together and then give credit to both people. But a lot of the times it was, all right, we've got this thing and I'm going to send you two on it. And like whoever wants to buy line is going to write the better story. And,
Hmm.
not a lot of happy people when you have to act something they've been working on like that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I know that I would be frustrated if I spent, I don't know how long you would write an article, but probably a good couple weeks is my guess, depending on the topic. And then all of a sudden, you're done. You're like, man, I really like this, and they're like, yours
Mhm.
sucks compared to Bob's over here, and it's like, oh shoot,
Yeah,
like
I
that sucks.
know.
That's
I know.
so. So what made you? And you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but to segue, what made you go into the field of being like a life coach?
Well, for me, like I said, I worked, it was a very corporate job and it was my dream job. After I got out of college, I was like, this is the most perfect job. I get to do everything I said I wanted to do. And it just stopped being fulfilling at a certain point for whatever reason. And for the first time since I had started working as like a teenager, I think I started working when I was like 12 or 13, took a year off to figure out what I wanted to do. And I just kept getting signs and people kept pointing me towards life coaching or like therapy. And so I went in this direction and so far I really enjoyed it. I don't know how long I will do this. I don't know if this is my career from now on, but for now this is where I'm at.
So then how does one become a life coach? Because couldn't it just be something to where I feel like I have enough experience or I feel that I have enough knowledge to coach someone? Or is there more of like I don't know, a certificate kind of thing that I can get to say, yeah, like I'm good at helping people?
So right now life coaching is totally unregulated. You don't need anything to be a life coach, technically. As soon
Hmm.
as you give advice and take money for that advice, you're a life coach. There is a international accreditation for it that I went ahead and did because the I wanted the experience and I also wanted the information because I do have life experience, but I just wanted some formal, you know,
Yeah.
some formal some formal classes on it. I was like, I really
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to make sure I'm doing this right. And so there is the international certification in life coaching that you can get, and it's got these requirements that you have. And there are places that say, this is an ICF coach, and you don't have to get it, but you can. And for me, for peace of mind, I felt it was
Hmm.
better for me to get it.
So what does it look like? So run me through. If I came to you and I was like, "Hey, Natalie, like I really need you to help me with whatever, I'm depressed or sorry, like I don't know what you would specialize in if that's the right term, but like what would a typical like setup kind of thing look like, and then what would we do to try and work through this thing, and then how do you like send me on my way?"
So for me, I always say, I don't want to see my clients very long. I know it sounds backwards, but the longer you're with me, then for me and for you, the less progress I feel like you're making. When
Mm,
you go to see a therapist, you're basically undoing a knot of something. So you and the therapist are undoing the knot. And a lot of times the therapist lets you undo the knot. They just sit and they kind of guide you towards doing the knot. Whereas life coaching, at least the way that, my company does it and the way I do it, is we're going to help you untangle that. You come to us with a problem, we immediately customize a plan for you on what to do. We set goals, we set big goals, we set mini goals, and we are with you every single step of the way. So we focus way more on wellness and looking at you as a whole person and looking at what you can do in a lot of small ways in your life to get to wherever it is you need to go. A lot of what we've been getting recently because of the pandemic and the social distancing is people feeling lonely or feeling disconnected
mm,
from everyone around them. And so we've been doing a lot of classes on, self-soothing techniques and just making sure that people have ways that they're feeling heard and connected by the people that they care about and they love while being safe.
Is there like I, I'm not sure what the word would be, but like maybe like a specific social area or maybe emotion or something that you guys won't touch? Like, let's just say, like alcohol addiction. Do you guys deal
Yeah.
with that, or is there maybe something that you try to shy away from because of whatever reason?
Yeah, so we're not therapists. So if someone comes to me with an addiction problem, um, I'm not qualified to treat that. I'm not. I've read books about it, I've sat in on other classes. I know things about it, but I am not trained to help anyone overcome addiction or even sometimes very severe depression. Sometimes I'll reach a point with a client where I have to refer them to a friend or another therapist that I trust and know
Mm,
because I have to understand that like this is out of my depth and it would just probably do more harm than anything if I were to continue. So
Mm.
for the liability of the client and myself, when I feel like I've reached a point where like, hey, this is above my head, this is out of my skill set, let me put you in touch with someone who can help you. It hasn't happened often, but a couple of times over the past few years it has.
I'm glad that at least you guys have a way to do that, because I feel that a lot of people would almost take that extreme of an addiction or, of depression, like they would see that person and almost look at it as like, I can do this. And they
Mhm.
won't, like, I don't want to say pawn them off, or like, that's definitely the wrong term, but like, I guess show them to another person. They won't do that because it's like a humility kind of thing. So I think it's
Yeah.
really good that you guys do that, because you recognize your limits, and everyone has
Yeah.
limits, and
Everyone
it's
has limits.
yeah, exactly. I think that's good that you do that. It gives me encouragement to hear that not everyone is so self-absorbed to where it's like, nah, I think I can do this, and then you end up just hurting the person. Because I have heard horror stories of
Oh, yeah.
people, not necessarily in your specific situation, but people, who are like, yeah, like I'm a therapist or something like that, but they're not like certified or whatever it is. And then they
Mhm.
try and help out these people, and then they end up just hurting them more. And it's like,
Making it worse.
yeah, like you got to be a little smarter than that. You're playing with people's lives, all right? It's not just a
Yeah.
checkbook, it's someone's life.
No.
Like, you got to be
And
kind.
that's for me, it sounds cheesy, but I gotta look at myself in the mirror every day. I really do. And
Mm,
I'm never, I didn't get in this for money. I left a very high paying six-figure job for this. I
yeah,
don't make the same amount of money, but I do feel more fulfilled with this. And so I know that
good.
this is a gift when people come to me and they're sharing, a very vulnerable part of themselves or their psyche or, their emotions, whatever, with me. And I treat it like that. I treat it like it is a gift because I don't want to get to a point where for me it is just like, okay, it's another client, it's money in the bank, it's this, that, the other, because then I've lost sight of why I started to do this to begin with. And the reason I tell my clients is, we usually see people for a minimum of 12 weeks and then we reevaluate at that time. And the most important question is, do you feel like you're getting something out of this?
Yeah,
And for me as well, do I feel like I'm getting something out of this as a life coach? If I feel like I'm working and I'm doing all of this for you and then you're not meeting me halfway, you're not doing your half of it, then we're not a good match together. And I will let you go as a client because we're not doing anyone any favors. You're spending money on a coach that's not helping you get to where you need to
yeah,
be. And I'm not being able to use my skills
yeah,
because it's not, where however I'm doing it isn't working for you. And so we usually work with people for 12 weeks. And then, like I say, my goal is to not see you. I don't want to see anyone longer than 12 weeks. Like
yeah.
sometimes we see people for like 16 weeks, and sometimes people come back more than once for something different. But I don't want to see someone for years like a therapist does. That's not my goal. And if I am, then I'm not doing it right.
Yeah, and it's just a great reminder that some people might really need help, and of course, money isn't everything. It shouldn't
Hmm.
always fall back on money because people need help. Does that mean that because, the homeless guy on the street is asking for your help, like he needs to move his stuff or whatever, nah, you give me $5 and I'll help you. No, you don't do that. You help the dude out. Of course, that's a really bad analogy, but I think the principle stands, just be nice and
Yeah.
be kind and help out others, regardless of what quote unquote inconvenience it might put you in, because it's not all about money. Like, we're all people on this planet. We're all trying to live. We're all trying to push forward and move forward. Just be kind. Just do love others. There we go. That's
I
probably the best
know.
thing. Love others.
I know. It's just like I really wish that sentiment was put forward more every single day. Just love others. I've met some really amazing people through life coaching and like just friendships and even with clients, after they've seen me or they've seen someone in my business, they are like, "Can I just keep in contact with you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And so like I feel like this has just been a great way for me to connect with people and for other people to feel like they're connecting as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Like I said, it's encouraging to hear people doing what I believe is the right thing to do, because you're helping out others. You're like, I don't care about the money. I'm doing it because I love other people. I just want to help them out. That's encouraging to me. It makes me happy to know that there's people in this world who aren't like not everyone's a pile of crap. Like, everyone's decent. Like, so there's some people that are decent. Like, it's
Yeah,
so
and
nice to
to
hear.
be to be fair, I think it's important, to know that the reason I ended up at that Fortune 500 company was because I was very focused on money. Money was very important to me. And in my mind, when I had X amount of money, then I would be happy. That was
Mm.
my thing in my mind. My thing was when I move here, I'll be happy. And then when I have this position, I'll be happy. And when I'm making this much, I'll be happy. But once I checked all of those boxes and I still wasn't super happy, I had to sit and be really honest with myself and ask myself, like, is this what it was really about? Or were you looking at the wrong things? And
Yeah.
so for me, I felt that I had a lot of personal growth over a decade. And so it's a pleasure for me to help people on their journey of personal growth, wherever it leads them.
It's such a, oh my gosh, it's so good. I love this. I love hearing that. It's not about money. Even like you said, you're making six figures and you're like, hey, whatever. Like it's money. Money's money. It's all gonna go away eventually. It's not like you can
Mhm.
hold all the money in the world and no, there's always gonna be
No,
something where you're gonna keep wanting to climb to the top. You just have to
you
realize that
are.
wherever you're at, you gotta be okay with it and you gotta make
You
it work.
really do. You really do.
Oh, so
And
good.
I was homeless in college per se. I didn't have anywhere to stay, and so I lived in a hotel
Mm,
for the first year of college. And so I think, again, for me, the focus of money came from that experience of scarcity, where I was just from one extreme to the other. I was like, okay, I never want that to happen again. And what can I do to ensure that doesn't happen again? But when you're just narrow focused on something like money, or, getting a specific title, or getting a specific person. I see this a lot at work. People are like, when I'm with this person, I will be happy. When it's like, you cannot place your own happiness
mm-hmm.
on external things like
Yep.
money and love and etc. It has to come from within first. And so if you're not happy today with what you have, you're not going to be happy tomorrow with what you have. You have to learn to be happy where you are in the moment, in the present, so that you can carry that joy with you on to the next thing. You're never
Yep.
going to be happy if you're constantly chasing after something. You just won't. It's called a rat race for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's so good. That's so good. All right. So again, I'm going to kind of change gears here a
Sure.
little bit, kind of move us along. I'm curious about your podcast. So
Yes.
tell me about it. What is it? How'd you start it? How? You don't, of course, have to tell me how it's going or whatever. But I'm curious about it. Like, give me the ins and the outs.
I wish you could see my face. I'm smiling so much right now. I love my podcast. So I run a podcast called Stoned and Social. And it was kind of a branch off from, my business, My Serenity. And at first it was called Stoned and Spiritual. And we would just talk about, like, general big questions that people ask in life, like what's the meaning and what's the purpose and what's my purpose. And that was fine for a bit, but I felt like I wasn't it wasn't exciting to do. I was like, I wanna do something else. I wanna show that I'm not so stuffy as a life coach.
Mm.
And so I am a huge, huge, huge cannabis advocate and have been for many years. Cannabis has changed my life. It has eliminated pain and anxiety and things within me that just doctors were like, nah, you just have to take a pill for this. Oh, that pill gave you side effects? Take this pill to counteract that side effects. Now you have two side effects? Okay, take this other pill. And I just
Yeah.
didn't want to do that. I just did not want to do that. So I
Yeah.
started researching about natural ways to kind of get better, and everything kept leading me back to cannabis. And so cannabis is a huge, huge part of my life, but I am one of those people who my family has addiction problems, and I
Oh shoot.
promised myself I was never going to fall into that. I was like, you have to be very conscious
Yeah.
about what you're doing. And so for me, I feel like I'm able to use cannabis very consciously. I am very purposeful and intentful in how I use cannabis. I'm not saying that I don't get stoned just to get the giggles sometimes, but for me, I use it more as a medicine versus an escape like some people do. And
Mm.
again, everyone has their own reasons. And so for me, I wanted to showcase that you could be a functional adult and you could, talk about things without being super goofy and just, not outlandish stoner thoughts, while being stoned. So our podcast, we get stoned and then we talk about a topic. Sometimes it's a wellness topic. Sometimes it's totally goofy. Like we did a pirates versus ninja episode. But just last week we did a social media suck episode about how social media is harming,
Oh,
us as a human race. And so we run the gamut and we have a lot of fun, and we feature a munchie of the week, which we love doing because we're stoners, and we do it every week. Comes out every Wednesday at midnight.
man, that sounds like something that kind of sounds fun. I personally, like, I've never gotten into I never got into alcohol. I never got into weed. I never got into cigarettes because my family has a huge problem like yours with addiction. And I had a lot of family members on my mother's side who were just raging alcoholics. And I had deaths in the family from alcohol. Of course, these were people that I never met, but they were, like, when my mom was a kid, she'd be like, oh, like Uncle Johnny or whatever died because of alcohol poisoning. Anyway.
Yeah.
And so I never wanted to get into that because I trust myself, but at the same time, addiction is something that I fear.
Why gamble?
Yeah. It's like, why gamble? Like, it's not harming me in any way. So I say that to say, I never got into it, but it sounds fun, like your podcast idea, because it's like, you guys just get stoned and then you talk about literally anything. And of course, when people are stoned, your brain kind of, I mean, like, I'm not sure because, of course, I've never been stoned. But, it kind of is, like, elevated and, you start getting all goofy. So, I can imagine some of the things you guys talk about would be pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk about a lot of different things. And for me, I was like a social drinker all in my 20s. I, had the normal experience with college, getting super drunk and getting stupid. And as I've gotten older, I have some friends who are still like do that. They were, before the pandemic, they were like partying every weekend. And I'm like, I love you guys, but like, this doesn't do it for me anymore.
Yeah.
It's not exciting for me to get drunk and forget half the night anymore. And so in 2019 on Thanksgiving, I made a promise to myself that I was going to try and go just 1 year without alcohol. And I've taken breaks from alcohol before, but when I got to, I picked like the worst time ever because obviously 2020 was just 2 months away.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to keep doing this because I'm not going to let a pandemic change what I promised myself. And so Thanksgiving 2020, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep going for however long I can keep going. And so I haven't had alcohol in over a year. And honestly, I don't miss it at all. Like I don't feel like I'm missing anything at all.
Yeah, that's one thing. And of course, this is just me rambling a little bit, but like, I've never understood the idea of like purposefully going out and like getting drunk. Because it just seems like a hassle to me. Because, I like my good buddy is someone who loves to drink. And so he'll tell me like, yeah, I got wasted last night, but my head hurts so bad this morning. Like, that just sounds awful. I mean, like if you're with your friends and that's what you guys want to do, like more power to you. Like, I don't care. It's not affecting me. It's just something that never really seemed, especially when you get older, like that sounds very college-like. And then when you get older and you realize you have more responsibilities, you have a job, a lot of people are getting married. And so, you have another person that you're taken care of, and then people have kids, and then you get promoted, and then you have payments, and it's like, I don't know, I feel like people grow out of it and everything. I just never understood that.
I feel like, especially here, I'm married to an Englishman, so alcohol is a whole different thing for him. We get in our debates about it, but I feel like here, social drinking is socially acceptable. To the extent where it's a very slippery slope and it starts to turn into problem drinking. And I think there's a lot of people who don't realize when they've crossed over from social drinking to problem drinking. People use alcohol to, relieve tension and to lubricate social situations and to reduce inhibitions. But when you start using that as a crutch and that's the only way you can go out, I have certain friends who they just basically stopped talking to me when I said like, oh, I'm taking a year off from alcohol. And so we can go to brunch, but I'm just not going to drink. And it was a problem for them. And I never realized how many people were going to have a problem with me not drinking, how it was going to affect them. And so I really do think that social drinking really slips into problem drinking, and a lot of people don't realize it.
I agree with you. I think that like I have no qualms. Like if my buddy wants to go out to the bar and watch a football game, like I'll do that, and I'll get a whatever he's having, and we just sit there and drink and we have good time. Like of course I know my limits and whatnot, but it's just like a lot of people I really don't think understand. Like you said, they don't understand where that line is, and then it becomes a hardcore addiction, and then stuff just starts to fall out of place. And it's like, how did I get here? Well, you weren't aware of what was going on. And
Yeah.
of course, it's different from person to person, and more people are, smarter than others. It's just something that I guess I was afraid of, honestly, and I just didn't want
Oh,
to get into it.
it takes a
No,
social awareness that you have
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. So when you talk about uh, uh, freaking cannabis, are you talking about, like, do you smoke it? Are you someone who takes like the gummies? Are you someone who does edibles, or like what's your like go-to consumption method?
I am a huge, like, first of all, let me say I will try cannabis in any form. I have. I love trying new cannabis products. Like I'll try anything. I'll try gummies or tinctures or sprays or inhalers or soaps or oils, like anything.
Yeah.
I just love that it can be put in so many things. But I am a huge gummy person. I love edibles because I have asthma, and so
Hmm.
I don't like vaping that much. Again, vaping's one of those things where, I want to know more about vaping before I
Yeah.
start relying on vaping. And so I make a lot of my own stuff or I purchase it.
Hmm. So when you say cannabis, are you talking a lot about the medicinal properties? Because here's the huge debate right now, at least in the States, with cannabis, is that no, it's bad because it's got addictive stuff. But no, it
Mhm.
helps you with headaches and it helps joint pain. And then of course there's a side of it where it's, what is it, CBD oil or whatever it is, that's like non-addictive and it's just good for your joints. Like, where do you kind of stand on that, if you don't mind me asking?
So I use CBD every single day, and I've been using CBD every single day for the last 2 years. And for me, again, this is why I love cannabis. It has over 110 cannabinoids in it, and each of those, you've got CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, Delta 8, Delta 9. You've got all of these amazing things in it, and they all do something special. And that's why when you just do cannabis, when you just have, regular cannabis, you usually feel really good. You might be one of those people who gets paranoid or gets anxiety. Everyone's a little bit different, but that's a very small margin of people. You feel really good when you take cannabis because of how it's interacting with your body. Our bodies have an endocannabinoid system already. Like that has nothing to do with cannabis. And when you introduce THC, which is the main psychoactive compound in cannabis, this is going to produce that high sensation. And
Hmm.
so this is why people feel really good. But when we can isolate out each of these cannabinoids, we can start to tailor it to what you're looking for, which is why I really do believe that it is a magic plant. I feel like there are people who don't need the psychoactive properties in THC, or I'm sorry, yeah, in THC, but they might really benefit from CBD, or they might really benefit from CBN or CBC or anything else. And so I think it's really important that this becomes legal so that we can get the funding to research it more and figure out everything that we can get from the plant, because I think there's a lot of good that could be done, but I think we're stuck in a system now where we're kind of in limbo. They kind of want to figure out, like, shit, what do we do? Do we legalize it? Do we do medicinal only? I
Yeah.
think in 10 years time cannabis will be legal everywhere, recreationally and medically.
Yeah, and that's the big, you already said it, but that's kind of the big thing. It's like, what do we do with it? Because marijuana was illegal for so long. It the whole idea of, growing pot and buying pot and smoking pot, like that was really frowned upon. And then it's only within what, maybe last 5 or 10 years or something
5 years,
like
yeah.
that, yeah, where it's really started to become more accepted. And we have states like Washington, I'm pretty sure, just passed it. I think Montana just passed it. States all over, California, Oregon, all over, wherever else. I'm not sure of the states. I think Illinois
Mhm.
just passed it, but
Yeah, there's about 9 states that just passed
yeah.
for medicinal, and it's great. I love it because every time there's more funding, more research goes into it. They're finding how it can balance your energy and help with appetite stimulation and blood
Hmm.
pressure and pain modulation and control nausea and vomiting and all of this stuff for your immune system, and helps with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis and all of these things.
Hmm.
I'm in DC, where this is, if it's going to change, it's going to start here. And the law here is so strange. So,
Yeah.
um, it's everything has to be a gift. Nothing can be purchased. So you are legally able to own a certain amount of plants and have a certain amount of cannabis on you, but you can never sell cannabis. And so we have pop-ups here where you'll buy a sticker for $50 and you'll get a free vape pen or a bag of gummies with it. And like, it's one of those things where they're still shutting those down. I haven't gone to any since the pandemic, but they were shutting them down even though they were doing everything right just to be
Mm.
dicks. And even at the time, doesn't matter how many times I would go to a pop-up and they'd know me, they'd be like, "Hi, Nat, what's up?" But we did our thing of this is a gift, this is a gift, this is a gift, this is a gift. And we say it so many times because you just don't want to cross that silly law.
Yeah.
And so like it's kind of weird. It's a weird loophole.
Yeah, like I don't remember what state it was that passed the law, but there's a state that said that you're able to buy it, but no one can grow it. Like it's illegal to grow in the state unless, of course, you have like a specific license
Mhm.
or something like that. But you can buy it from anyone. So you're telling me that if
Ugh.
Joe in the middle of nowhere is growing a bunch of pot and he sells it to me, that's legal, but he can't necessarily legally grow it. And it's just like,
Yeah.
why do you got to do that? Like if you're gonna here's the thing, and like if you're going to pass a law that says you can buy it, of course people will then like that can be a job for someone.
Abuse it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
and
ugh.
it's one of those things too where here because of this weird, it's a gift and it can't be sold, no one can ever sell cannabis in DC. You don't know what you're getting. I have a
Yeah.
test kit so that I can test things, but for me, this makes the market way more dangerous than regulating it. And I find that with most things that our government decides we can't have, when they do it like this, it makes the market really unstable and it makes it really dangerous for people who are trying to use it. Like we know a guy who is he's just terrified to buy cannabis. He's just terrified. And he was like, "Please, Natalie, can you please get me some?" Like he had cancer a few years ago and this is what helps him with his pain. And I
Mm.
was like, absolutely. Absolutely. Because he's clear of cancer now, he's no longer eligible for the medical card. And so I bought it for him and he was like, "This is just nuts to me that like I can't just have this because I was sick." And like no one gets that. And I feel like it's doing more harm to people than good when it's in this kind of state like this.
Yeah, like I can understand the worry behind lawmakers trying to figure out something that works, but at the same time, you're not doing anyone any good the way that you're doing it right now, which is like kind of passing it, but then also making some of it still illegal. It's like just if you're going to pass
Pass
it,
it or
just
don't.
pass it. Like just push it through. Just say you can do this. Like if you're not, if you don't have a license through the government or whatever, like a business license or whatever to grow it, then
Mhm.
whatever, but it's like, don't try and, kind of say like, oh, I'm going to stick my finger in this pie, but, kind of put my other finger in this pie. But if you do too much in this pie, it's like, don't do that. Like, just push it, man. Like, just do it. Because I mean, here's the thing. And a lot of people, they don't see it like this with cannabis. Of course it creates a lot of jobs. It creates a
Mhm.
new revenue for
Mhm.
states to tax. Like you can have a
Absolutely.
cannabis tax, which
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
means you might be able to, take taxes away from sales tax, whatever it is. Like it's an untapped market.
Oh
and
yeah.
and here's the thing that I wanted to say this earlier and I kind of got sidetracked, but I think a lot of people are worried about cannabis and trying to legalize it because, like you said earlier, the whole idea with like socially drinking, like when are people going to like start to either get way too far across that line and
Mhm.
it's like, all right, now I'm starting to use this because I physically need it, otherwise I'm like I'm going to go through withdrawals, or the people that use it as a crutch. And it's like that's the hard part. And of course the government shouldn't necessarily make that distinction because we have alcohol and like
Mhm.
there's addicts with alcohol, and it's like the government's not necessarily able to do much against that. It's not like they can regulate, all right, Joe can only have 2 shots
Yeah.
a night, so like
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's like there's so much potential that can come from this.
Absolutely. I think right now there's about 26 countries where weed is, if not legal, super chill and legal-ish.
Hmm.
And we love saying we don't know how to do this and we're thinking about it. I think what we're doing in America is trying to figure out how can we do this so that we can tax this to the max across the board. And when that's figured out, then I think it will be legal. But we could literally, like Canada, our friendly neighbor, we could ask them, because in 2018, they legalized recreational marijuana in full. Growers can get
Yep.
licensed by the government. Individual provinces get determined how the product gets distributed and sold. And it isn't heavily advertised. The thing that you said about, when is it going to be people having it, using it as a crutch, or, I think that's already happening. I don't think that matters. I
Oh,
think that's
really?
been proven time and time again that, like, people who are going to abuse certain things, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it may be, they're already going to find a way to do that. It doesn't matter if you
True,
make it
true.
legal or not.
Yeah, true. No, I guess I didn't see it that way. I agree with that, though. I think that if someone needs something, or if they want it that bad, they're going to get it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, there's always that person that might, it's
Sure.
legal, and then, like,
Sure.
you're never going to be able to stop that. But I totally see and agree with what you're saying. That makes sense. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Oregon. How they took the ban on hard drugs and everything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road. It's just I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that.
I love psychedelics, and I've used them in my, in the past. And for me, they've been a great self-reflection tool, and they've helped me on my life journey in ways that I will be forever grateful. But I recognize that some people see that, and for them, it's a panic. They're like, oh my God. People in my timeline on Twitter were like, crack's going to be legal next. And
Yep.
I'm like, no, like, there's a big difference between decriminalizing something and just being like a free for all or whatever.
True.
But again, it's been illegal before, but I found a way to get LSD. I found a way to get magic mushrooms. And so for me, it being decriminalized or whatever doesn't mean I'm going to, be like, okay, I need to get more of it. I think there's a lot of people who just jump to conclusions based on stigmas that they have against certain things.
Yeah, I would argue that I'm kind of one of those people. I've just like, so funny story. I lived in Salem, Oregon for a while. I went to school down there, and about 45 minutes south of Portland, an hour given the time of day. And my brother really wanted to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying I know where that is. I used to live in Beaverton.
Oh, sick. Yeah, Beaverton's beautiful. So cool.
Yeah.
And so my brother one day wanted to go to a concert. He's really into NF, the rapper, and he was in Portland. And so my brother's like, Dan, come with me. I was like, yeah, sure. So we go there and we're waiting in line because, with concerts, a lot of the times, people get there early so they can get closer to the stage. And so we were standing in line, and there was, I can't remember what concert hall, what theater it was, but it was pretty sketchy part of downtown Portland, so you might recognize it. I'd have to look it up to find the name, but we're standing there in line, and across from us is this other, like, I think it was like a metal theater. It was like a theater dedicated to like metal and like all the like hardcore music, whatever genres those are. And there's a guy who you could tell he was tweaking out, like you could tell something was going on. And he went into the like little, like cove or whatever, where like, the wall is there, and then there's kind of like an indent, and then the doors are there. You know what I'm talking about? And so he walks up there, and it looked like he was taking a piss, right? Like his pants were kind of low, and he was just kind of bobbing around. It looked like he was shaking his junk and everything. And he turns around, and he's got his belt on his arm, and he's shooting up heroin in the middle of the day. And he's like, "Don't do drugs, kids." And then he like falls over, and we're like, "What the heck?" And I'm just like, and that's why I tell you that story to say, I'm kind of in that stigma of like, don't do this with the hard drugs, because then we're going to have more people like that. Of course, like they're going to do what they're going to do, and like that's just my opinion. But it's like I just kind of want to share that because, one, it's a funny story. You don't see every day. Well, it's sad, but it's funny at the time. Some dude turns around, and he's, shooting up heroin in the middle of the day. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon, and then he turns around, and he's like, "Don't do heroin, kids." And it's like, oh shoot, like one poor guy, but I'm just interested to see what happens. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Oregon. Like, of course, I'm all for, trying to do whatever they're doing, be more inclusive, whatever, like, you do you, but at the same time, you have to draw the line somewhere, I feel like. Of course, that might be the stigma coming out, but I feel like you have to have, you can't legalize crack. Like I'm sorry, like I feel
No,
like hard drugs
no,
are just
no,
not good.
no. I'm with you on that. I know you guys had, I think it was ballot measure 110 that you're talking about, where it's, it decriminalizes the personal possession of cocaine, heroin,
Yeah, that's what it is.
methamphetamine,
Yeah.
and oxycodone. And like, I I worry about that too. As much as I want cannabis reform, I really like that Measure 110 is funding addiction treatment and harm reduction efforts.
Yes. Yes.
They're not just, I think, without any sort of boundaries, in my eyes, almost everything in life requires some sort of boundaries, or
Yep.
else you fall into anarchy slash chaos. So I think there absolutely needs to be a line drawn. I just don't think, I mean, not for measure, I think Measure 110 is pretty good. I like that they've decriminalized it for personal possession. So that means if you have over a certain amount, it's not personal anymore. You're trying to sell it, or you just bought it and it's too much for you because you're an addict.
Hmm.
And so I do think that that's the right way to do it. But with cannabis, like, the line is just not even, like, it's, for me, there is no line. It's, people are just like, no, we can't talk about the line right now unless you're in
Yeah.
this state or this state or that state, or maybe this one if you have a med card. And so
Yeah.
I do think there will need to be some sort of boundaries on what you can do.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. I think at first I was a little. I don't think I heard you correctly when you first said that, so that's why I said that story. But I think you and I are on the same page for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, because maybe I have a lot of experience with drugs. I've done, like I said, the mushrooms, the MDMA, the LSD, other things, but nothing what I would consider to be hard. Like, I've never done
Yeah.
anything that I would. So for me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's cool. You can have less than 40 units of LSD on you, and now it's not, you're not facing a felony. That makes sense to me. But I think for someone like you who maybe doesn't have the experience and has
Hmm.
seen something like that, which I've never seen ever, that would probably freak me the fuck out. If that
Yeah.
was like, I'd be like, what the hell? Like, I saw this in person, and this is what it looks like when, it goes too far, or there's no limits. So I
Yeah.
can absolutely see your caution. And I think, like, we need people who have a healthy dose of caution, as long as they're able to listen to reason, as long as you can come to an agreement. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and that's what I say about everything. I feel like of course, you're always going to have the people who are hardcore one side and hardcore the other side. But I think it's good to have that, because then you start talking about it, and then you can kind of, butt heads enough to where you can both
Hmm.
agree on what you think is correct. And that's usually the right way to go. And so it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to, have a conversation like that and just be able, yeah, it's super good, super good. So I want to ask you one last thing. I want to kind of
Sure.
wind us down. And this is a question that I like to ask everyone who comes on the show, because I like to learn. Like as you probably notice,
I can guess.
I ask a lot of questions, and I really do like to learn. That's something that I didn't take advantage of when I was in school, and then when I was done with school, I thought to myself, man, I kind of miss learning. And of course, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be about a certain subject. I just like learning. And so this question that I ask everyone tailors to that. And that question is, what is like a piece of advice that you would give to someone? Like, what's something that, you've held on to for X amount of years that your dad told you, or what's like, maybe a song lyric or something that really stuck with you that you feel like, someone listening might be able to take to heart and to use?
I Oh gosh, you told me that you were gonna ask this question, and I kind of thought about it, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. For me, the best piece of advice that I've just held on to since my teenage years is, a life unexamined is not worth living. And I've taken that with me, and it's meant different things at different times throughout my life. I think Plato may have said it. I know it was a philosopher who said it.
That's
But
good. That's
for
good.
me, it's just, if you stop looking at your life and really examining what it means to you, what you're getting out of it, and where it can go, you're missing so much. You're missing so much of, the big picture. I think a lot of people get in these boxes where, you're doing your life. You go to work, you go to school, you do that thing, you come home, you hang out with some people, and then you do it all over again. For a lot of people, it's, rinse, repeat cycle, and they're not really stepping outside of that comfort zone to really live life to the fullest. I take regular breaks to go on vacation by myself, to do all the things I want to do. I don't need to compromise with anyone about where we're eating because it's just me. And I constantly check myself and ask myself, like, is this really making you happy? Is this really what you want to do? Is this going to, is this on the path of where you're hoping to be in 2 years or 5 years? And if it's not, then I have no problems just doing a complete 180 and shifting gears, because life is way too short. I'm hoping that, this isn't the only ride we get through here, but in case it is, I want to make the most out of it. And so that means I got to keep checking in with myself, or else I might be missing some stuff.
Man, spoken like a true life coach, eh? That was really good. That's really good. And I don't want to add on to it, so I'm not going to say anything, but I will say this. I think you're totally right in everything you're saying. Like, you should examine yourself, because a lot of people are just like, I'll just kind of go with it. And then you lose track of who you are. And when you lose track of who you are, a lot of bad stuff can happen. So you should definitely, examine yourself. Just figure out who you are. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Sweet.
Don't fall into that midlife crisis or that quarter life crisis. Just figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natalie. Do you want to real quick shout out anything, your podcast, socials, anything like that?
Sure. I mean, I have my life coaching website. It's mysoulrenity.com. That's SOULRENITY. And you can check out my podcast, Stoned and Social. Like I said, it airs Wednesdays at midnight Eastern Standard Time. And we're on Instagram at Stoned in Social, like rock and roll. And you can follow us there, reach out to me there.
Awesome. Sweet. Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And thank you for being flexible. Like, of course, we were supposed to start this 45 minutes ago, but you're like, we can do it early. So that was really nice, kind of.
Thank you. Yeah. I enjoy, just like, I really enjoy, like you, I enjoy learning, but I enjoy learning about people. So getting to sit and talk with you about, some goofy stuff, some deep stuff, I love it. And I appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time too. This was honestly really good. When you said, your thing was Stoned and Social, I was like, man, she's going to be some sort of like weird hippie chick, but no, you're very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. And honestly, like, super down to earth. And that was really good. I really do appreciate that. Thank you for being cool. Thank you for not being a weirdo.
Yay!
Yeah, awesome. Well, what I'll do is I'll send you an email when this is about to go live. It'll probably be in about a month or so, maybe a little bit sooner, but I'll send you an email saying, hey, it's live and everything. Okay. And cool. Yeah. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your week. This was a blast.
I will. Do you have an Instagram? Does your podcast have Instagram?
I do not have an Instagram. I've never used Instagram. What I do is I just link my personal Twitter and then just kind of use that to be like, oh, this is it,
Got
so,
you. Okay. All right. Cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing it.
Yeah. I just, Instagram was one of those social media things that just, like, I looked at it and it was weird, and it still is weird to me, and it's like,
I hate social media.
Yeah.
Like, I hate social media, but it's like, it's a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah, it really is. If you want to grow, you almost have to have it.
I know.
I know. The negativity, though. Blech. Gross.
I know. Not worth it.
Yeah, not worth it. Awesome. Well,
I appreciate your time, and like I said, really cool. Honestly, up until about 20 minutes into chatting with you, I did not even realize that, oh yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it now. So, like, I really appreciate that. Like, there's not a lot of people. I do a lot of editing and audio engineering for other people's podcasts, and it doesn't flow very well. You have a very, very amazing conversational style, and so don't change it. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, the one thing that I do, and this has also kind of been my crutch with a few people, literally as soon as you pop in and I say hello, I click start, so then everything that comes from there is as natural as possible. Because the one thing that I absolutely hate doing is, I've been on a few shows, and then they kind of talk to me for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then they're like, okay, we're going to start. And I'm like, wait, what?
You weren't already starting.
Like, you weren't already starting? And then, and like, I don't want to sound, like I'm not, excited to be on, but it's like, I have a life that I'm doing, you know,
Yeah,
and like
you've
I
got
have
other
stuff going
things to
on,
do.
and it's if you want to record an hour show, but then you want to talk another 45 minutes before and
Yeah.
after, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have that time to give you. So it's like I just want
Yeah.
to be able to click start, talk for an hour 15 minutes, and click end, and then go our ways.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
like I
you have a
said,
good rest of your week.
yeah, you too. Thanks again for doing this. This was a blast.
Yeah, same. Talk to you later.
Yeah, talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Across the Pond. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you want to connect with me on Twitter, you can find me at KingServant, K1NGSSERVANT. If you know someone that would love to be on the show, please send them my email at acrossthepondpod01@gmail.com. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to watch the audio version. There's no video, it's only audio, but you can find us there. I can't wait to bring you some of the episodes that I have lined up. You're going to want to hear these. Awesome conversations. I'm so excited for them. Tune in next Sunday and every other Thursday for another episode of Across the Pond.